Good evening, parents, educators, alumni, and community members. Thank you for giving of your time to listen to this important address on Parish primary schools. Earlier today, I met with principals, school staff, and other internal stakeholders to inform them of decisions regarding Parish primary schools. I would like now to share them with you. As a community, we know and accept that we have a challenge before us, one that will not be resolved by maintaining the status quo or simply tinkering at the edges of change. For years, the consistent calls from our community for change, we decided as a government to confront the unfulfilled promise to provide each and every child with the education to which they are entitled. This challenge is not new. Our issues as a society, specifically in education, did not begin with the dawn of the 21st century or even with the creation of middle schools in the 1990s. Many date back to the very origins of our society and the foundations of education in Bermuda, or the result from the legacy of decisions made long ago. Within our long and painful history, schools and systems through this very day remain separate and unequal. I refer plainly to racial segregation and its legacy, whose implications still affect the quality of children's education in the year 2021. There are other divisions that intersect and overlap with race, such as gender and class, and how certain kinds of learning get privileged over others. As your education minister, I have great pride in our community, a community of parents, educators, and the countless other supporters of public education who persevere in their commitment to the educational development of Bermuda's young people. I have high hopes and aspirations for all of Bermuda's children. Their futures will be brighter because of the changes being introduced through the plan of educational reform, because you, as a community, demanded them. Education reform. In 2017, the government committed to putting the futures of all of our children first by implementing Plan 2022, Bermuda's strategic plan for public school education, and reforming public education by phasing out middle schools and introducing signature schools at the secondary level. In 2020, as this work continued, we also promised to make our education system equitable so that high-quality education would be accessible to all young people. To deliver on these commitments, we have instituted education reform, which comprises of the following: the Learning First program, a dynamic and collaborative program to redesign teaching and learning and make curricula more relevant to young people now and into the future. The change from a 3-tier system to a 2-tier system by phasing out middle schools and introducing signature schools, and the development of an education authority for better governance and accountability of the public school system. Through education reform, we are creating pathways in which our children will develop the requisite skills, knowledge, values, and relationships to be active, contributing citizens, to be empowered to access and create the jobs of the future, and to be positioned to resolve increasingly complex challenges in Bermuda and the rest of the world. In support of education reform, the Education Act was amended in March to introduce senior-level signature schools and begin phasing out of middle schools. Learning First has established the future model of learning and will be working collaboratively with the school transformation teams to roll out the first 2 signature schools in September 2022. And earlier this year, the Ministry of Education undertook a consultation process on the proposal to modernize and improve primary schools through the introduction of parish primary schools. The case for change. So why parish primary schools? The imperative for change is reflected in our pledge to ensure that our education system is modern, accountable, and equitable for all of Bermuda's children. Through the development of Plan 2022 and in countless other ways, you, our community, told us that education needs to be different. Teaching, leadership, and learning needs to be different. Schools need to be different, and the ministry and the department needs to be different. Not just different, but better. Not just better for some, but world-class for all. In the year 2021, in a nation as proud as ours, an island as small as ours, with so many assets in human capital, with the political will of the government, and holding our aspirations for young people close to our heart, I ask, why shouldn't each and every child in Bermuda receive a world-class education? Regardless of where they live, how much money their parents have or don't have, or what unique gifts and challenges they may have, all children in Bermuda should be given what they need to achieve success in school and in life. This is the big goal of education reform, to remake and reform public education so that each and every child in each and every public school in Bermuda can grow and develop so that they can learn from excellent teachers in world-class schools within a world-class education system. Unfortunately, truly equitable education for all is not part of our history. It is not yet our present. But working together, we will make it part of our future. The Parish Primary Vision and Concept. With this in mind, parish primary schools were proposed as a critical area of need within education reform. First and foremost, our vision is for primary schools to be redesigned to provide the kinds of teaching and learning that children need and deserve. Therefore, we proposed one parish primary school in each parish, except for Pembroke, which would have 2 parish primary schools. Each parish primary school will consist of transformed, real-world and authentic learning facilities that can accommodate up to 300 students with no more than 15 students per class. We also want schools to have a lot of green space, which is critical to the physical and social development of our children. We need to change the physical structures of schools to accommodate the kinds of learning that children need in the 21st century. We also need to support the 2 additional year levels that will be introduced to primary schools as middle schools are phased out. And importantly, all of our students and staff should be able to thrive and reach their personal and professional potential in safe and healthy learning facilities. About the consultation process. These important decisions couldn't be made without involving the community, including those of you with a direct stake in the future of public education. We held 20 public and parish consultation and engagement meetings and simulcast a number of these meetings on Facebook, CITV, and YouTube for broader engagement. I am happy to share that our consultation process yielded a total of 131 written consultation responses, with some of these submissions garnering multiple comments and/or a significant number of signatories. I would like to again thank all individuals and organized groups for participating in the consultation. I also want to acknowledge the time and effort taken to read the consultation material, attend meetings, and talk to one another. Some of the submissions reflect research, personal histories, and organized and coordinated efforts to gather the views and submissions of other members of the community. What I heard and what I learned. It was my duty to take time and great care to listen, understand, and analyze the views, feedback, sentiments, feelings, and facts presented during the consultation. Some of the issues and themes raised were the potential effects on students, both positive and negative, the role and effects on existing students and surrounding communities, implications for student travel and transportation, the financial cost of the proposals, how school sites were scored and identified to be recommended for parish primary schools or to be discontinued to be used as a primary school, school performance, implementation of change, and the critical importance of school and community history and legacy. Knowing our history and maintaining our legacy. Learning is lifelong, and in my time as minister, I have learned a great deal more about Bermuda's educational history. I am therefore here with great respect for earlier generations who toiled and fought and sacrificed so that all children could attend school and be given the opportunity to get a good education, even though many schools were separate and unequal. There were so many important points and issues raised during the consultation, along with questions about what we needed to do for our students today. The voices asking, what about the history and legacy of our primary schools were particularly repeated. After hearing firsthand from persons who experienced, witnessed, and fought educational segregation, I have come to understand better the very personal experiences and effects and legacy which lives on today. I've also learned more about the everyday acts of resistance, perseverance, and resilience of rich communities whose members came together to strengthen their schools and communities. We have a difficult and painful history, the effects of which are all more painful because we haven't really had a full and honest discussion about each school's history, our education system's history, or our national education history. I know we cannot change the past, but we can understand it. We can acknowledge it, we can document it, we can speak it, we can tell it, and we can teach it. These things are done, and I appreciate those who carry on this work. But as the ministry and government, and in my view, as an entire community, we can and should do more to celebrate and preserve school and community history as Bermuda's history for current and future generations. As a result of these unmet needs in our island, we will be creating a national committee on historical legacies in education. We plan to bring together Bermudian historians, cultural and community leaders to collaborate with students, family, alumni, and other community members with deep connections in the schools and the history of education in Bermuda. The first step is to create a national framework within which ideas and proposals from members of our community can be developed, implemented, and shared with schools and the communities. Some examples, as suggested from the consultation process, may include digitized oral histories, published written histories of primary schools, visual historical timelines, homecoming celebrations, permanent historical exhibits at parish primary schools, the potential renaming of some parish primary schools, and the rewriting of curriculum to include school and educational history. I acknowledge that the prospect of discontinuing the use of some schools, including those with rich histories and legacies, is very difficult for many community elders, alumni, parents, and students. I am, however, heartened by the consistent thread throughout all of the information provided on the importance of history and legacy. It comes back to the guiding principle that all children should have an equitable, high-quality, world-class education. History teaches many lessons, and that we need to do better for our children is one that we have learned and working hard to realize. It comes back to that guiding principle that all children should have an equitable, high quality, and world-class education. History teaches many lessons, and that we need to do better for our children is one that we have learned and we are working to realize. Parish primary school decisions. Primary schools are special places and near and dear to the hearts of students, parents, staff, and alumni, and others. I therefore had a number of difficult and sensitive decisions to make. In making these decisions, I invited, have listened to, and appreciated a range of views and submissions. I considered what we are trying to achieve and the content of the consultation submissions, including proposed alternatives, and the issues and concerns identified during the consultation. After doing so, with great care and attention and understanding the implications of the change, I have decided that parish primary school model is the best approach to achieve the intended outcome for all learners. There is a hard reality of long-standing issues which have been barriers to the success in education. They are not going away. Continuing to put off changes needed will result in a dream deferred for our young people. Specifically, we have too many primary schools for our declining enrollment. As of September 2021, we have 2,074 primary school students across 18 primary schools. 7 primary schools have fewer than 100 students, and 5 schools have between 100 and 108 students. No primary school has over 195 students. We need to do better to focus our precious resources, school leadership, teachers, and therapeutic and support staff on students. This focus is undermined if they are spread out across 18 primary schools. Our schools are aging and declining, requiring significant technology and safety and health upgrades. Our schools, which are outdated and inadequate learning facilities, cannot support the world-class education to which each and every young person is entitled. For far too long, students, parents, teachers, support staff, and principals have been asked to make do. We cannot ensure equity or deliver world-class education by continuing to make do. It is for these reasons that parish primary schools will be introduced, consisting of one primary school per parish, except for Pembroke, which will have 2 parish primary schools. As we are moving forward with parish primary schools, the following school sites will become parish primary schools. St. George's, the East End Primary School site. Hamilton Parish, Francis Patton's Primary School site. Smith's Parish, the Harrington Sound Primary School site. Devonshire Parish, the Elliott Primary School site. Pembroke Parish, the Victor Scott Primary School site and the West Pembroke Primary School site. Paget Parish, the Paget Primary School site. Ward Parish, the Purvis Primary School site. Southampton Parish, the Dalton E. Tucker School site, and Sands Parish, the Somerset Primary School site. Additionally, as a result, the following school sites will be discontinued as primary schools. St. George's, the St. George's Prep School site, the St. David's Primary School site. In Devonshire, the Prospect Primary School site. In Pembroke, the Northlands Primary School site. In Paget, the Gilbert Institute Primary School site. Southampton, the Heron Bay Primary School site, and the Port Royal Primary School site, and in Sands Parish, the West End Primary School site. The Prospect Primary School site will be repurposed as an exceptionality signature school. With the exception of Devonshire Parish, where a centrally located site was needed for the exceptionality's signature school, the best available sites in each parish were chosen for each of the future parish primary schools. Detailed reasons for supporting information for decisions for each parish and school site are provided in the Parish Primary School Decision Report, which are available on the moed.bm website. Reasons for the minister's decision. The decisions, while difficult, reflect deep consideration and analysis of the current submissions. They align with the wider plan to reform and transform the public education system to improve the delivery of education and create better outcomes for each and every child. It is critical that all schools can provide the promise and benefits of high-quality education for every student. The plan for parish primary schools will ensure that every child will attend an outstanding primary school, regardless of where they live, their background, or what strengths and needs they have. This critical investment not only sets up success for young people, but also provides essential elements to help our economy and society thrive. This necessitates bringing schools and communities together to use our resources better and support the aims and objectives of improving the quality of education and lifetime opportunities for each and every young person. The role of our community. With this said, there is no doubt that parish primary schools will affect communities surrounding all primary schools. Community members where schools will not continue to be used may feel and experience a sense of loss. Something will also be gained as each parish primary school is envisioned as the hub of their parish, whereby the surrounding families and community organizations will become authentic partners. Parish primary schools will empower community wealth building, including various partnerships for uplifting communities by creating and maintaining high education standards as young people are prepared for citizenship, post-secondary education, and training and future careers. This level of community wealth building can transform current educational, economic, and cultural development systems to be more inclusive and equitable models that collaborate with the businesses and families in and of the community. Therefore, parish primary schools are also an opportunity for communities to come together to support education and young people in ways that are strategic, better organized, and concentrated in terms of resources. Bermuda is a small community of smaller communities that have long-standing and meaningful histories and legacies, which are valued and cherished. There is no doubt that schools are a critical part of the community and that there are other essential organizations and institutions that will continue to thrive and adapt as the public education system changes to better meet the needs of each and every learner, regardless of the community they live in. Delivering the promise. To parents, educators, and alumni, I want to assure you that the decisions on Parish primary schools will not have an immediate effect. These changes will be phased in over a 3 to 5 year period starting after the 2022-23 school year. Parents will still have a choice in where to send their children to school, as enrollment will continue to be by zone and not by parish. Now that the decisions have been made, we have developed an indicative timeline for the first phases of delivery of parish primary schools. By early fall, a project and procurement manager will be secured, and a supporting team created to develop a specific plan and timeline for building and construction. This will be anchored by a capital works project and finance plan. The eventual changes will also be challenging for many. We are acutely aware of the need to handle student and staff transition throughout this process with care. We will engage and involve those directly affected and share regular progress updates and implementation plans throughout the process. We know that these are big decisions and a lot of information to absorb and understand. We are also producing a series of programs entitled Each and Every Child to keep you further connected and informed on this process, and we encourage you to participate. This will be an opportunity for you to learn more about education reform, our commitment to acknowledging and documenting history and legacy, and the decision on parish primary schools. This evening's statement, as well as the written decisions, the supporting analysis, and all of the consultation submissions have been published on the ministry's website, www.moed.bm. To every person in our community who has been and will continue to be actively involved in education reform, we thank you. Your time spent listening, observing, asking critical questions, expressing concerns, lending support, and attending meetings and sending in consultation responses were critical contributions to the consultation and decision-making process. Bermuda, we understand the magnitude of this reform. The transition process will have to be handled sensitively and involve considerable communication, with opportunities for your views and feelings to be heard and help shape the path forward. As I had stated, this education reform is vital in building the next generations of leaders, movers, and achievers, because all children can achieve if given the best education, programs, and support. We owe it to our children to invest in their futures in a way relevant to their needs and focused on their positive future contributions to our country. Bermuda, it is time to finally create the change that we know we need for our children's education. Thank you.